Hey, Dad, Mom wants you.
Tell her I'm asleep.
Hey, Dad, there's a salesman at the door.
Tell him no.
Dad, the dogs are fighting.
Just spray him down with the hose.
There's a notification on your phone, Dad.
What's it say?
Manfred's birthday party.
It's time for action.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Manfred. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Manfred. Have an amazing celebration with your family and your friends. I hope you will enjoy the day. I wish you all the best and that all your dreams come true very soon. I know that you are working very hard on this, and to support this, let me share your cake with you. So, wish something? Do you have it? Good. Let your dream come true soon. Happy birthday, dear sister.
Hey Manfred, happy birthday, feliz cumpleaños, tanti auguri. I wish you a mega super year. Thank you for being part of our family. You are amazing. Keep inspiring. Enjoy your day. Bye.
Manpreet,
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 Baba, Manpreet.
Manpreet. خلاص ما. Happy birthday, Manpreet.
We all wish you an amazing happy birthday and hope your life will be as bright as you are. Keep rocking, fly high, and we all love you. Happy birthday.
Hey Manpreet, just wishing you the happiest of birthdays. Hope you have a great one. See ya.
Hey Manpreet, it's Kimberly. Happy birthday. Hope this year gives you everything that you're wishing for. Bye.
Happy birthday, Manpreet. Gefeliciteerd.
Hi Manpreet, happy birthday. I wish you all the best and hope all your wishes come true. Keep motivating and inspiring for the data science community. Hope you have a great year ahead. Bye bye.
Hey Manpreet, happy birthday. Hope this year will be full of fun and AI.
Hello Manpreet, I've been told it's your birthday today, so please allow me to wish you a very, very happy birthday. Thanks for everything you do in MKAI and for your own community and with others. It's very special, do keep it up, and once again, happy birthday.
Hello Manpreet, Danny here, wishing you a very, very happy birthday. I hope you have a wonderful time with your friends and family. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Manpreet.
Alright, Manpreet, it's your birthday today. Have an amazing year ahead. Wishing you lots and lots of luck.
Happy birthday to you, Manpreet. We love you and we wish you all the best. Enjoy the happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Manfred. I hope you had a fantastic day. All the best for you from God. Cheers.
Dennis is too cool, in my opinion. Too cool for his own good. All right. So obviously we had a magical time last week, and I wanted to, there were some good questions that came out of that. And so I'm going to just propose something, and Guy's going to come after me, and then we'll just spend some time around discussing that. So please listen to this carefully. In fact, let's see. I think I'll share this briefly so y'all can read it with me. Let's see how I do this one. I just want to share a little text window, really. Sorry for the, oh, good. Let's do it this way so it's not confusing. Okay, sorry, the text is a little small. Let's see, there we go. Nice. Okay, now think philosophically with me for a minute. We create conventions to express our minds to one another. In other words, our languages and their writing systems and our grammar and spelling, etc., they're all conventions. Math and geometry are conventions for quantities and for shapes. And we establish methodologies in science, technology, engineering, and math that are conventions so that we can communicate those things with one another. But I think one thing Dennis was really trying to stress for us, we must not let those conventions limit our imaginations or the way we seek to solve challenges and problems. In other words, those things are our tools we've created to help us and those new to our fields communicate with each other. So we don't serve them. We maintain and use them, but they serve us. They are our tools and our servants. So don't let our very helpful conventions limit your thinking when we are seeking solutions, but use them to help you. However, and a special guest will come next week to help us with this, we can also use these methods and conventions to help us grow. And let me stop sharing that and turn the floor over to Gaith briefly.
Yes, Tom. Here I agree 100% with just only one add I want to say. These conventions or whatever math, language, I think it's not easy to run away from the language peers. I think it's something we have to accept it. But let's say in math, it's a tool. It's for helping us to grow. And something else, it's a tool that helping us to be more logical and more realistic. That means not everything that we are imagine it's possible, at least now. So how to test if this is possible or not? It's by back to these conventions and to these basics, and then run or test our imagination against it. So maybe this is the difference between the scientific and the kid. The kid, he's able to imagine without any limitation, but sometimes the logical limitation is needed. So when the limitation is logical, we have a scientist or a creative person. When this limitations is very high, we have a normal person is working only. So this is my add only about this. I think you're still muted, Tom. Sorry.
Sorry. We don't have to stick to this, but there were some really good follow-up questions from last week, and Gaith and I wanted to give these 2 points as an icebreaker and continue the discussion around them. And again, I think the central premise is we need these conventions. We absolutely need them. But at the same time, they were created to help us communicate with one another. It can be hard to think this way, but don't let them limit your thinking or your creativity. And who would like to jump in and say more?
Can I say something, Tom? One thing I guess I'd like some clarification on, because one issue I see is we have ideas all day long, and we can live in that world of ideas, and we can make anything happen in that world of ideas. But if you are trying to physicalize, for lack of a better word, if you're trying to take an idea and actually implement that idea in the physical plane, then how does that transition work? Because in your mind, there's no limits. and you can do whatever you want and you can have any outcomes you wish. But if you are trying to put that into this actual physical plane, then you're dealing with physical limitations, or that's, I think, where the conventions or the methodologies or start coming in, because you're having experience. So you're trying something with this idea. Did it work? Did it not work? Was it better or worse? Was it, and as you're identifying the outcomes of trying to put that idea in the physical, that's where I think you come up against and saying, okay, well, this is my idea, but maybe somebody else had that idea. Maybe somebody else had experience. Maybe I should be having this conversation with them and say, well, what outcomes did you have? And to start, that's, I think, where it comes from. Yes, the kid can have all kinds of great ideas, but the scientist has already said, I've tried this. I tried to take this idea and put it in the physical, and this is what I've come up with. That's what I would say.
Before Guy perhaps answers, I just want to say this briefly. Valerie, that was so unfair of you to highlight my greatest weakness of spending too much time in my mind and not enough time, making sure I implement those ideas. No, I'm teasing you, but you're absolutely right. Ideation is fun and we can do it all the time. But if none of those ideas actually get put into practice, they're not real. They haven't benefited anyone. But they're on the flip side, Valerie, there's a host of warnings regarding this. We can be discouraged about one of our ideas. Oh, that's been tried and it didn't work. Yeah, but did you try it well enough? What went wrong? Maybe we can fix that. Yeah, no, I'm not saying you were saying this. I'm just saying there's a host of things we kind of need to revisit, like, oh, there's that physical limitation. How can we get around it? I want to give one example that we're all benefiting from right now, Moore's Law. If it weren't for Moore's Law, we wouldn't be talking right now, which is memory capacity per volume will steadily increase. And it has. But Valerie, if you saw how many physical boundaries the device physicists have run into with memory storage, you would think they were complete geniuses. And they are, by the way, because they keep finding ways to break these physical barriers to memory storage. And if they had listened to the naysayers, we wouldn't be where we are. Now, however, it's good to identify the current constraints and understand why they're constraints and see if there's ways around them. But I'm very eager to hear from Guy on this. Go on ahead, Guy.
I have nothing to add. I think you and Valerie are correct. And maybe Valerie said what I want to explain in a better way. The only thing it's when I say in physics, that means in reality, on testing, but not in physics as a science, let's say. Because sometimes even physics, it's science that means it's new findings that might appear. That's why I'm a little bit more convinced on mathematics, because it's more abstracted method to describe the things. But yes, exactly. What is the difference between the scientist and the kid? Is the scientist, he tests this. He's trying to prove that this idea, this great, mad sometimes idea, can be real. And what is the difference? The other hand, it's what's the difference between the normal person and between the scientist. I think the scientist, he has the kid curiosity. He's curious just like the kid. This is what I want to highlight. I think Gus has something to say. Sorry, Gus.
But I think, Tom, also, like, if you look at the physical sciences, you have things that are laws, like the law of gravity. That's just a law. It is what it is. There's no disputing that. Whereas you've got theorems and you've got hypotheses, and in science, they're still trying to figure it out. They haven't proven that it's a law. So you still have a lot of room there to look at that. And actually, I think there are fewer laws like gravity, the law of gravity, than there are for these other things, because people have tried to test out. People are still thinking, wait, we haven't reached the boundary of this. So I think that it's, you know, you've got the ideas, but it doesn't mean that you should just limit yourself, because, well, look at even time, okay, in terms of how many years ago would we have ever dreamed we would have the technology we do today? No, but it's because people kept pushing and working and you know, overcoming those obstacles and limitations, you know?
No, you hit it on the head, Val. That's so important to remember. We have very few laws. We have a lot of theories, and there's a danger in the scientific community of the current pet theory. And if you try to challenge the status quo among theories in the scientific community, you're considered an outlier. You're considered crazy, and that is actually very bad. I'll give you an example. Current nuclear theory. We can't observe any of what we propose, but the people that propose things that are much different theoretically at the subatomic level don't get an adequate voice, don't get adequate consideration. Now, if you look back through history to see when this has happened, those established theorists, if you shoot down their theory, their career can fail. So it's like survival of the fittest, but that's not in the interest of scientific inquiry. The scientific community has some things built in that don't reinforce scientific inquiry. It's sad. There was a theory called phlogiston. It was a theory surrounding combustion science. It held back combustion science for centuries. And in fact, if they had been more willing to let go of phlogiston, someone other than Carl Benz probably would have invented the automobile. Just saying, just saying. And now it's not the only danger point though. And I'm not suggesting the current nuclear theory is wrong, but it is just a theory. It's not observable yet. And it may never be observable, but the point being is we should always be open, and this not being open, this having too much of a focus on current limitations is, in my opinion, not a good practice. Gus, did you get to speak yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I couldn't remember. Forgive me.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, you go.
Okay, so correct me.
Oh, Gus, yeah, go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I'm understanding about that paragraph. I'm going to talk about an example, right? Let's say in my previous job, I got to the point that, I mean, this is an education company, right? So we got to the point after the second lockdown in the UK that we were struggling to get the numbers, right? To get learners in, right? Obviously, because of my data background, I started to identify why the things were happening in that way. So when I started to think and use my ideas, and when I got them all together, I'm trying to sell a project. What I did was I got all the data that they had before, and then I started to map them, right? Using Tableau, let's say, right? And then I identified that there were holes in the area where we cover, right, business-wise. And then I started to say, like, look, why we haven't got for this and that and that. And let's say, for example, one of the courses was in red numbers. It was a course in health and social care. So I said, like, have you mapped like all the care centers and said, like, look, I'm going to provide you the people who are going to be taking care of your people inside your care homes, right? By saying this and that and that. Anyway, long story short, I was seen as a threat by my manager. He told me that I was crazy and my idea wasn't like aligned with the business mindset. And I said, actually, I can see that you're struggling. And obviously your business strategy is not working. Otherwise, we will having numbers and we won't be struggling. And I can tell you, if you go and make a partnership with a company saying like, look, I'm going to trade constructors and builders in order to, I mean, let's say commute wise, location wise, and the benefits. I mean, as someone said before, in like I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago, some people don't go for money sometimes when they apply for a job. They go for a job because they want to feel like comfortable, like they don't have to travel like an hour and 20 minutes to get to the office or something like that, or whatever the project is. So yeah, I think that example is like my limitation, where that the mindset of my manager wasn't aligned to the new vision of this project, the way I was seeing, like, and I'm quoting this example because I mean, my background is commercial from telecommunication, and we use that kind of like strategy to deploy our strategy and grow our market and get more customers in and all of that. So again, yeah, is the limitations relied on agents of change. Right. In this case, my manager was an agent of change. He was like resisting the change, and she couldn't understand what I was saying, but because she wasn't ready. And again, someone mentioned yesterday in that how to get an analytic job. One of the key skills nowadays is like negotiation, but it's not about money. It's like negotiation, like trying to pull them into your thing without causing any harm. Actually, I didn't cause any harm. I wasn't saying like you're wrong. I was saying like perhaps we can try this. I don't know.
In the chat, I said people that feel threatened by your ideas are very hard to deal with, in my strong opinion, or people that they're not threatened by your ideas. They just think you don't have a brain sometimes, and it can be very unfair, especially when you're pretty convinced and you're trying to show them good logic and data to back up what you're saying. Gus, I think I would be surprised if there's someone here that can't relate to what you're saying. It may be good that we discuss a bit here soon. How do we deal with those situations? And I know Giovanna shared a situation in the past where she had a very humble backdoor method to get her ideas accomplished when she ran into stuff like this. But yeah, let's hear from Hugo first, and then go back to that. Go on ahead, Hugo.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, family. I must confess. I know I'm not a mathematician. I just happen to love the numeric sciences because, well, I've always had a flair for numbers right from being a child. I studied accounting for my first degree and a couple of other stuff here and there. So definitely I know my math is not there, like there. But one of the things I try to do is to ask questions. And I know I may sound bonkers to some of you who are math gurus. I can see Guy is already laughing in advance. I can deal with that, all right? But okay, so this is it. Prior to the last session we had, that was with Dennis Rothman, I had a lot of questions about the implications of math on AI. Because when I started getting interested in AI, one of the first things my teacher told me is, hey, sorry, we are not going to ever get to the point of artificial general intelligence. And what did he mean by artificial general intelligence? A time when we wake up and tell the computer, hey, Siri, I need you to do this, do this, do this. Siri, what's today's date? What's this, what's that, what's that? And then Siri cannot just think from its programming. Siri can actually think, you know, the way the way a human being will actually think and come up with, you know, suggestions and all that. So, and when he said that, my question was, so why then do we do all the studies that we do if we will never get to artificial general intelligence in this age. And that made me now start questioning, okay, what are the methods that are used in the process of AI presently? You know, so I started asking and I started studying, and that was when I started discovering that a lot of the algorithms, a lot of what we use today to do our trainings in machine learning are mathematically inclined. And I began to study math. I began to try to understand the phenomenon. And I learned that one of the leading thoughts, what I call him now, a thought leader in mathematics, was the guy called Pythagoras. And I tried to study the work of Pythagoras, and there was something I discovered that was a common thread all through whatever it was that Pythagoras did. What I discovered was that Pythagoras believed that everything could be reflected by numbers, and the numbers could be used to explain away any phenomenon. Whatever thing you want to explain, that by looking at some numbers, you'll be able to explain it, including God. So Pythagoras was of the opinion that you can use numbers to explain God, you know. And I tried to check around to see if there was any body of work that Pythagoras did to attempt to use numbers to explain the existence or otherwise of the phenomenon called God. And I just noticed that I couldn't lay my hands on them. The only one I could see was the work of Reverend Thomas Bayes, or if I get the name right, I hope I'm not killing the name. That's this guy that came up with the Bayesian probability theorem. And he tried to use probability to prove the existence of God, you know. But one thing I've discovered is that because of AI's current configuration, in which we try to narrow everything that we want to tell the computers into numbers, it makes it look to me, and that was why I asked that question I asked last week when Dennis was in the house with us. It makes it look like, wait, does it mean there is no other way to communicate with the computer apart from math? Because if we reduce this whole system, everything, to just math, then what day are we going to be able to train the computer on something that is esoteric, that doesn't have any mathematical leanings or anything, you know, that doesn't have any logical, you know, bring this. And that is what artificial general intelligence is. Artificial general intelligence is the fact that we can wake up one day and Siri on its own has discovered the cure for coronavirus, you know, without any prior programming. Siri has become that intelligent, or you know, to be able to think of, okay, hi, if I add this and this and this and this, I'm going to have a COVID-19 vaccine, you know, that would, Siri can do all that. And my teacher told me, right now, there is no way we can get to that level of advancement where a machine can become generally intelligent. And the question I kept asking was, is it possible that because everything is hinged on math, that, you know, the computer cannot get to that place? Because, I mean, we're teaching the computer, we're training the computer. So if we're training the computer and we have to train the computer with just math, is it possible that we are the ones limiting the computer? You know, like I was sharing with Dad, I was telling him that I've been thinking about a lot of things, you know, a lot of things, because
Hugo, I'm eager to discuss about this, and anybody also, I would like to. But this question is nice, but we have to think about something, that the computer itself, it's a kind of math machine. It's the nature of the computing life. It's why it's computer, because it's computing. So this is why the name of is computer. So even the AI right now, Tom, he suggests this naming for all the algorithms, and I agree on it, and I like it. We name it as math machines, even all the algorithms that we are using. It's math machines, because this is the nature of a computer. It's how we build this. This is why we are not limiting the computer. We are just following how it's created. Maybe we are talking about something else, another kind of machines. It's not built upon math, but I don't think in this case, I don't know what kind of abstraction method can be built on. Because either we have math or we have biology. So if we understand ourselves very well and we are able to recreate ourselves as a machines, maybe this is the other way you are talking about. In this case, Siri can discover what a human is discovering right now. But we don't know anything, or we know small things about ourselves. We don't know how our brain, how it works. We are just creating kind of math machine again to tell that, okay, this can work just like a neural network that we have in our brain, but it's not the real neural network. It's totally different function. It's the same functionality, but totally different structure in our brain. So we are not limiting the computing world or the AI to the math, because this is the nature of this machine that we are dealing with. What you are looking for something else. Now, describing, yes, because math, it's description language, let's say. This is how I can understand it. One of my friends, he's a great person, his name is Giuseppe Bonacorso. Right now he's hiding from LinkedIn. He's not posting that much, but previously he was very active. He has a great example. If we have 255 by 255 image, and in this image, we are just considering all the possibilities for each and every pixel to have its own value. So we have a huge number, but it's limited. A huge number of generated image, but it's limited at the end. Even if it's it's very huge. In this set of images, we have everything. Everything you can imagine. You're changing the values of the pixel, and then you get something. We have the stars, we have the sky, we have Hugo, we have life. It's generated, and we have other people. But at the end, this number is limited. Why it's limited? Because we are dealing with math, which is let's say descriptive tool. The great math, it's at the end descriptive language. We are describing the reality from somehow more efficient way than speaking. So
okay, guys,
now we are not limited.
I like what you just said. So what you have just said now tends to concur with what my teacher told me, that with the way we are currently going about artificial intelligence, we will never get to artificial general intelligence. Would that be correct?
Yes, but I will say something else. We will have a very smart machines that performing some tools better than us. Consider the cars, for example. It's running faster than us. So the same. We will have these smart machines for specific tasks. It will be totally perfect. But general intelligence, I think the problem is going outside of the books. I don't think math will go outside of the books. Maybe outside of our books, but the general books, it will not be there. This is how I think about it. I'm okay to be wrong. And in fact, it's better. It's better to be wrong here. Okay.
And you see, one of the interesting conversations that I had with him, because like I was telling you, I come from a finance and consulting background. So I did a lot of process improvement stuff with my teacher. We did a lot of those things together. So one of the things I also started out, in fact, my journey to statistics was actually Lean Six Sigma. I don't know if you know that part of process improvement. So that was how my journey to statistics, began. So I know my teacher was always telling me that, hey, we have to keep moving by Sigma, from 5 Sigma to 6 Sigma to 7 Sigma, which is near perfection, all right? But this is what he told me. He said, because I was asking, I was like, why are you moving to, why are you trying to move to 7 Sigma? What's the gain? And he told me, he said, You see, machines are supposed to be better than us. In fact, the machines are supposed to operate at 100%. The whole idea of a computer is the computer is like a black box that when it receives garbage in, it gives garbage out, right? So if we ensure that we give computer 100% of what it expects, then the computer will give us back 100% results. And in production, we must always work towards 100%. So he told me that, imagine that you have a production line that is just 99% efficient, that there's just 1%. You might say 1% is not much. Now, make that 1%, okay, let's say, he told me, he said, translate that 1% to maybe like airlines. So what that means is that out of all the flights that are going to happen today, 1% is going to crash. Is that good news? And I'm like, no. He said, yeah, that's the point. That we have to work with the computers to the point where we can get to 100%. And for us to be able to get the computers to that point, you get it, guys? Okay. You get my drift?
I get it, but I want to tell you this. You know this two peers that's running from the lion?
Yes.
Okay, and the lion is faster than them, or let's say the cheetah, it's faster and faster. So at the end, one of them, okay, he told his friend that we cannot go faster because he's going to hunt us. We cannot go faster than the lion. So his friend told him, okay, I can go faster than you, and this is enough for you. Okay, now this is the same here. When we are talking about of these machines, we don't need them to be 100% because we don't know what is the 100%. We don't know what it is. The most important is to do better than us. Once it's doing better than us, will open us more, let's say, it will open the horizon for us. So we will see what the machine sees and then go again and improve ourselves. This is how it will be.
I want to add to this. I think y'all need to listen very carefully. Actually, let me say it this way. I think you need to think very carefully about what Gaith is saying. I just want to back up what he's saying one level before, and it's this. Why are we motivated to make machines? And he was already hitting on it. The motivation to make machines is typically to make our lives easier or to accomplish things we can't accomplish with our own hands and bodies and minds. So everyone celebrated when the lever came out. Everyone celebrated when that was extended to the water wheel, etc. Everyone celebrated, the first automobile, the first airplane. But isn't it a little telling, Hugo, that people didn't feel threatened until they saw a machine that could out-intellect them? Okay. Even the calculator was not threatening. Oh, no, thank you. That's great. Take the mundane math off my hands. But boy, when it can spin an article faster, when it can research faster than you and give a summary article faster than you, better than you, now all of a sudden that's the last vestige. And I don't want to take it on a tangent, but yeah, Gaith, go.
Tom, yes, because it will be on the same side. I don't know what's the Spartan feeling when they discover that there is a tank. Okay, these great warriors, Spartan, if they discover that there is something called tanks that can pump and destroy one city, I think they will feel the same. It will be threatening their value because they are warriors. Because right now in this age, we are, let's say, celebrating our smartness that much. So we feel AI, it's threatening us. But again, it's one step from the humanity steps towards something better. Let's hopefully better.
Yes,
okay.
Ngozi.
Okay, Ngozi. After you, I'll revert to Gaith. Go ahead, Ngozi.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there's no greater place there's a feeling of stress as in health. In healthcare, the the thought of having AI unleashed into, I mean, it's in use now, but actually using it in, almost like for diagnostics where the AI becomes the doctor, and it's quite frightening in the field I work in, and it's something most people sort of recoil at. For a doctor to use it, we talk about robotic surgery or even for analytics where we use it for RP and stuff, we're fine because we are in control. We're just supporting what Tom and Gaia are saying. But where it outperforms, outreasons the human being, we become a bit concerned about what it can then go ahead to do. So yeah, and again, we'll go back to your question. The computer, we shouldn't expect it to go beyond what it was designed to do. And what you're talking about could be something a different machine could do, but maybe the name would not be the computer or AI. But I guess by the time we're done with the computer helping us, as Tom said, in accomplishing tasks that we want to delegate to it, then maybe we can proceed into the realm of it, becoming a thinking tank and self-sufficient in that way.
Ngozi, I want to make sure we're hearing you correctly. I want you to correct me if I can't restate what I think you were saying correctly. I think you're saying we're nervous when something is first released that takes control away from us. It's in control on its own. But we become okay once we see that, oh, it can in fact do a better job than us. For example, what I think I heard you saying is it's very scary to put yourself under the control of a robotic doctor until you see from studies that it could do a better job than a human doctor. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, in a way, until we can see that or see beyond, or people know that they can control that robotic doctor, in the sense that if a robotic doctor is doing a surgery, they can actually monitor it and make sure that it's not going beyond cutting out whatever it was supposed to do. Do you get what I'm saying? So
yes.
There was a display I saw once where it was an AI supported surgery was happening remotely, but the doctor was controlling it from where they were, but the surgery was happening in a different continent.
Right.
And the robotic surgeon was doing the actual stitching and the cutting out, and the doctor was far away in a different country entirely. But because they knew that they could stop that surgery at any point, the human being was still in control. I'm not sure at this point anybody would be happy to just go under, at the mercy of the robot without anybody saying, okay, it's enough. We didn't mean you should take out the heart now. Don't go that far yet, something like that.
Now, just a thought. What do we do when we release a new drug into the world? It's tested heavily. It goes through massive procedures before it's released. I would submit that we're not going to see anything like a robotic doctor take over unless it's been tested in veterinarian situations first. And it's going to go through just massive tests before the first human's willing to say, yeah, I want to be operated on by that. Go ahead, Guy.
Yes, I think in healthcare, since I'm working here, there is a lot of critical questions coming on that side. But let's say most of the models and AI used in healthcare right now, it's more in diagnostic, not in procedural part. That means we are not trusting 100% to make decision by the what to do to the patient by the AI algorithm. but maybe we are trusting by the accuracy of the model to tell us that this patient has this case or this disease or not. The reason here, I'm back to the human nature. We are looking for responsibility. That means who will be responsible about this decision? If
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. If this machine, very smart machine, make a mistake, is it possible to punish it or to cease dealing with it, even if it's that happen? The responsibility is something related to somebody has the same consideration that you have. He is equal to you, not better. Even if I might find somebody better, he is better in that field, but at the end, he is a human just like me. He has the same feeling, he has the same consideration. If I'm dealing with my kids, he has kids. So this is why I'm looking for somebody who has the same considerations. So this is, I think, the critical part about the healthcare. So that's why not making decisions, only helping from AI until now. In the future, this will be changed. Now, this situation, the same we can say it about the autopilot for the autonomous driving. Now, should I trust it? If it's make a mistake, who is responsible for that mistake? Who will pay for the injuries? Okay, it's not about money. Who will pay? Not only money. So this is what I mean. I think, yes, there is ethical part we have to think about it. And we have to abstract it. Ethical, not my ethics, not Tom ethics, not everybody ethics. We have at least somebody just like me. He has the same consideration. He has the same nature. Yes,
Ngozi.
Yeah, guys, you just mentioned something. There is a recent incident that happened in the UK, and it involved the post office, what we call the Royal Mail here, and Fijusi. Fijusi had given them a system that they used at different post offices. And about 20 years ago, they noticed a shortfall in accounting at about 500 and over 500 post offices. And a number of the post masters were indicted that they had taking money from the operations. And some of them were jailed. Quite a number of them were jailed. And only recently it was found that it was a computer error. Now, it's become a huge, I'm talking about the responsibility now. Remember, this is like over 20 years ago. And the case now is, while compensation is being given, but how do you compensate for people who have gone to jail, people who have lost their families and lost their homes because of this computer error? And it's just similar to what you're talking about, Gaia, about responsibility of driverless cars or whatever, whatever we do with AI. At the end of the day, who takes responsibility for when there's a problem? And the one I'm talking about, the post office, is a recent thing, and nobody has taken ownership of, being responsible for what the postmasters have suffered. They've been given monetary compensation, but there is a drive for someone. I mean, how do you compensate someone for 11 years in prison? False imprisonment in this case.
Yeah. No, I don't know how. This is my answer. Yes, Tom, go ahead.
No, thank you. And these are all good points. I think the most stressing point is the one that Guy asked. Someone could argue, okay, this AI just caused an accident and there were damages. And, it won't matter in court that you say, Your Honor, jury, people of the court, let's recognize that AIs in this arena are causing less accidents than humans. And I can hear the judge and the jury saying, yes, Tom, but in this case, we still require damages to be paid And so who's going to be responsible for this AI making this mistake? Yes, you can go retrain it based on this data. Yes, you can do
Yes.
all sorts of corrections, but yeah, go on ahead, Guy.
Again, Tom, if we take it to the cars, when the cars started, some nations, they give a huge responsibility to the car owner for any accident because they found that it will make a lot of accidents. This is what's happened until everybody in the world right now is, let's say, not everybody. Okay, some people, there is clear regulation about how to drive and how to determine the speed and all of this. But early, for example, in my home country, if you are stopping your car in the street and there is somebody just dropped from the sky and then he died over your car, it's your responsibility because your car is there. So that means they are making the responsibility very huge because they cannot deal with this machine. The same, we are automating. We are moving from one level of automation to another. The same question, it will be asked and asked again and again until we are trusting the overall ecosystem from responsibilities and duties.
Yes, it'd be interesting to do a case study with the people that died in Tesla cars for trusting their self-driving capabilities too much. George, let's hear from you.
Hi guys. First of all, I'm really enjoying the conversation. I just wanted to weigh in a bit. I think one of the, I think what I see a lot, like I've also been following AI for a while, but I see the problem is not mostly the AI. I think it's the human nature to want to delegate responsibilities so that he can be free, quote in quotes. So like for example, like when you start a company, after sometimes you feel like there's some responsibilities that are very repetitive and you feel you want to do some other things, so you kind of delegate that. I think over time people have want to trust so much the artificial intelligence system to the point that they can be delegated decisions. For me, I don't think that is the case. I think we still need human interventions to kind of like make some decisions, because if you look at it, if you look at AI, even if we kind of develop the best AI, it will still not be capable to handle maybe values that it has not been fed with, you know. So like, for example, if I come from Kenya, if I have to make a decision about traffic laws in Kenya, I will make them based on the traffic laws in Kenya. But if I come to maybe the US, I have to make the decision based on the traffic laws in the US. And if you look at the US, they had the cars more than maybe the Kenyans have had the cars. So they've had a longer time to observe how people use the car, how people drive, how roads are made, and all those things, compared to maybe how in Kenya we have been able. So I think it's those outliers now is where we have the human intervention, whereby even sometimes you see in law that they will borrow from other judgments which have been made before. So I think the idea of trying to make AI the all and be all is what for me is wrong. If, for example, I speak about mathematics, I think mathematics is just okay as it is for using computers, because if you look at the basis of where the computer comes from, it comes from the on and off switch. That is the basic, and it comes from the use of electricity. So using those on and off, manipulating that, we can be able to make decisions. But if you look at a human being, there are more things that make up a human being. It's more things that make up the pumping of the heart, or up to somebody making a decision. So I think it's still upon us humans to try to be in charge of decisions, as much as, like, we should look at AI as an assistant rather than as something that is taking over. And I think the idea of AI taking over is being fed by people who are non-progressive. I think AI in itself is something that is great in terms of it can be able to Like, for example, if I to go through 5 million lines of data, it will take me X amount of time. But if we assign it to a machine, it can take X amount of time. And from that, as a human being, I can be able to derive some patterns and then make a decision based on those patterns. But like, if we now want the machine to still come up with the patterns and still make a decision, I think that is where like we are having a problem with the AI. I think that's my.
Those are great points, George. I specifically liked your point about the way I heard it was it's going to take us some time to get some case history to even know how we as a human race want to deal with the cases where the AI maybe didn't even cause an accident, but it couldn't respond well enough to an accident situation that even a human couldn't respond to. It's just going to take us time to learn to deal with those situations. That was one point I thought. I mean, you were making so many good points, but that was the one that really struck me.
Yeah, I think sometimes we mistake two things. I think there's blame and then there's responsibility. I think humans are more love blaming rather than apportioning responsibility. So, like, for example, if there's a case of an accident, what are we trying to look at? We're trying to find the person who caused the problem so that they can pay. Most of the time, it's not even that we can evade that situation. Most of the time, is from that grieving point from the loss, somebody wants somebody to pay for it, and that is the major. That's one of the major points where the decision is being made. But if you look at holistically, then we can, maybe it's the road that had a pothole. We want it to be repaired. And maybe it's the car which has faulty. So there's so many factors that can lead to that. But if we only make a decision in terms of who will pay for it, then all these other things are not factored in. So I think that is now what we are seeing coming into AI. I think as a human race, first, as you said, we need to evaluate ourselves. We need to evaluate how do we make decisions first. Then, because AI is just mimicking what we are doing. AI is just a representation of how we are thinking, how we make decisions. So, like, for example, if we go to education, for a long time, degrees has been the all and all factor of education. But slowly by slowly, we are seeing that the ability to perform a task or the ability to know something or ability to even discover something. Like when education started, the idea was to find better ways of doing things. But as we go, education has become something more of like a manufacturing line to manufacture as many people who can be able to do this thing without changing it. So those are some of the things that also we are now seeing dropping into AI, and that's why we have the prophets of doom who are saying AI will take over, AI will do. But I don't think AI will. AI in itself is actually coming to augment, to make human better, maybe even taking us closer to God, so that we can be able to use our time to maybe do the more thinking and have time to now look at the mistakes maybe we have done before and rectify them. While at it, the AI can be able to handle the things that we already know how to do, and we can be able to tell it how to do.
Yeah. And I kind of want to bring us back to a central point with an illustration too. One of the key things that we can do to help ourselves grow is to keep posing questions to ourselves and try to answer them from multiple viewpoints in our own minds, in our own self. Let me give you an example. I think one of the key factors that made the Wright brothers beat all the physicists and engineers in the world to getting to powered flight first was because they loved to experiment, but they also loved to expand their own minds with questions. They would take a problem they were facing and they would argue very strongly on the two sides of an argument, and they would come to rest with that. And then they would switch sides of the argument and start all over again. This is the level of openness that's necessary to push our minds to new levels. And it's why we don't want to be constrained by current theories or current mindsets, etc. But it's this art of posing these questions that's key. Hugo.
Yeah, that I think I'm better enlightened right now. For me, my question has always been, I think I liked, when we were having this exchange earlier, I liked the facts you told me something that stuck with me. And you told me that the kind of machines that we are looking at that can have a general intelligence will not be computers. And Ngozi reiterated that again, because with the way computers are programmed right now, it's obviously garbage in, garbage out. So it has to wait for some form of input from you. Even when we call it artificial intelligence and machine learning, the computer still has to wait for us to input some data, train it and train it and train it before it can now, start performing tasks. So it made a lot of things clearer for me. But, like I've always asked myself, is it really true that, like Pythagoras said, everything in life can be narrowed down to numbers, zeros, ones? Because and I put this question to Gait because I perceive Gait as a mathematician. So, so if Pythagoras is correct, then it somehow means that we are limiting what we can achieve with computers. Since every phenomenon can be narrowed down to zeros, ones. But if that is not possible, then is it possible that Pythagoras was wrong? Or is it possible that we have not really understood the full ramifications of those Pythagorean theories about how to even explain the existence of something as esoteric as God, with numbers? So that has been my question every time. That's just it for me.
If you don't mind me simplifying this, Hugo, it just occurred to me the realm of what you're asking, and I don't think I clued into it until I heard you the second time, and it's this. Is it possible for computing, especially with the onset of quantum computing, to answer things about our world? I think the answer is quite possibly yes. Is it possible for it to get to a point where it can deal where it can approach artificial general intelligence? I think if it can, the one limit would be, one possible limit could be that it just won't ever be able to exceed humans' capabilities to conceive of new things. But I don't know that yet. I don't think we've even begun to ask the right questions to take us the next step toward artificial general intelligence. I think we need groups of very highly intellectual, capable people that are very open and really want to learn more together to be able to even pose the right questions, because it took a psychologist coming into the realm of AI to even give us reinforced learning. So, but the reason I don't think our machines in our physical realm can begin to emulate God is because we're just talking about our physical realm. And God's not confined to our physical realm. God's a spiritual being, and God is infinite. Computers can't handle infinity.
Tom, if I can just add, sorry, if I can add some.
Yes,
oh,
yes,
okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right,
No,
sorry.
after you.
Okay, I was just going to say, even not going into the spiritual, going into the realm of emotions. I can be quite angry as I'm speaking now, and you wouldn't know. And if you put in what I've said into the computer, it cannot detect my feelings. Ugo, do you understand what I'm saying? So interpreting feelings is something that is not quite as simple as, you can look at my my maybe the way my eyes, or different things, but I can also conceal that I'm angry. That's why people play poker. You can't tell what it is they're feeling. People can actually be sad and crying, and that is why sometimes people are happy outwardly, but they're actually sad. And there's nothing for you. You can't detect it as a human being, how much less a computer. And do you get what I'm saying? So not even going into the realm of the spiritual, just emotions are still quite difficult for us to program, because if I say a sentence without inflection, it may not detect that I'm angry. If I write it, even less so. And that is why when you write something, you will write and say, he said angrily, or you write in caps so that the person will know that you're actually upset. So yeah, there are still realms that and there's a piece of work I was doing with someone where we're trying to transcribe notes, free text, into standardized data that we can store in fields. And all of you know how you would have to go through that whole body of text for you to even work out what whether it was a negative sentence or if it was a positive sentence. Now, not even talking about the feeling or emotions of the person saying it. So we're still a bit far off from the spiritual realm, is all I'm saying.
Is it possible? I think my comment, it will be long, so please forgive me for that. First, I will answer Hugo. I will say, no, Pythagoras was correct from my point of view. But there is only one small add. But always we are losing something. Yes, everything can be described, or let's say, as he said, make it narrow to 0 or 1 or to math, but always we are losing something here. For example, if we are describing our eye movement, we will describe it by math using discrete steps, not continuous steps. But at the end, what's happened to the eye, it's moving continuously somehow. Now, to explain this, if we are talking about the emotions, yes, it's possible we are unable to understand why the emotions happen like this, but we are able to step over and make something that make kind of stack or kind of equation to tell us that if the person he moved from this negative, positive emotions, at the end he will reach that point and he will be in bad situation. And this expectation or this prediction might be very accurate. Now, this is how mathematics can describe the fact. But again, we are losing something. We are not describing 100% correct, but we are getting good indication. This is exactly what mathematics do. That's why in the beginning, I said it's descriptive language. Now, if we are going to speak about God, I don't want to be brave and speak about God. But I can say from my point of view, it cannot describe the God, but it can give us evidence. And this evidence, now again, the problem is about how to explain this evidence. Some people will find it that it's a clear evidence about the God is there. And some people will find that no, it's clear evidence that the God is not there. Again, it's abstraction method, it's descriptive language. This is what's mathematics. So according to that, we are able to trust it to describe the fact, but we have to keep in mind that always we are losing some parts. That's why we are observing from our point of view, even using mathematics. It's from our point of view. One other example here, it will be about the stars. I think there is one study appeared that if you have this huge telescope that it's able to give you a clear image about two galaxies, so the light will act as a light, as a wave between them. But if you didn't use that observation tools, which is these telescopes, at the end the light it will act as a photon, which is with the half body. Here, I think Tom will help me better. Sometimes as a body and sometimes as a weight. So again, it's how to observe the situation. The real nature, it's reflecting. That means you don't know what's happened on the reality. You are just know what you are seeing. Now, this is what mathematics do. It's good method to tell you what's happening on the, in fact, on the life, on everything. But always you are losing something. Sometimes this lose, it's acceptable. Sometimes we will discover that it's not acceptable.
Maybe just to add on that, I think the main idea is observation, and from observation we derive patterns, and then from patterns, then mathematics comes to represent those patterns. So mathematics, as it is not. It's just like if let's move away from mathematics for a bit. If I say I am hungry, it is a way of representing what I'm feeling, but it is not the feeling itself. So the mathematics comes into if, for example, if you think about what Pythagoras is saying that we can always narrow down things to the base of mathematics, because mathematics is a very good language of representing patterns. I think life is a series of patterns. So if we think of it from the pattern, like if you actually think of artificial intelligence, it's basically pattern recognition. And from pattern recognition, we can be able to derive meaning out of those patterns. So if we go back to the people who are reading the stars, they were reading the stars so that they can be able to know when these stars are aligned like this, it is a certain season, or they always align like this, and then they, after X amount of days or X amount of months, they will align themselves again like this. Then from there, they can say, now 1 year has passed. So it is, I think it is, we should just come back to the humanity, which basically human is curious. And from curiosity, we make observation. And then from observation, we want to represent that observation in a way that somebody in India, somebody in the US will be able to kind of get what I'm trying to get at.
John?
So
a really quick slight alteration to what you're saying. What really drives advancement? Is it curiosity or is it need? I would say that astronomy was driven by smart people who realized unless we figure this calendar out, we're going to keep having these problems we have now. Now, it's hard for us to imagine living in a world without accurate time and accurate calendars. But it's interesting. I think we are where we are now with AI because of where the needs, the desires are driving us. And George, I'm not saying curiosity isn't important. I'm saying the things that really get done are driven by need, by passion, by desire.
I think what the need is on the masses, but the curiosity is on those who want to solve the need of the masses. So I think both are there, but like there are those now who are bold enough to kind of say, like, for example, we can have a problem. Like we say, Trump is not a good president. Trump is not, that's the masses. Masses are complainers. But then we'll have a couple of people who will find a way to get Trump out. So those guys are pushed by curiosity in terms of wanting to now solve that problem. And I think that's where scientists lie. Scientists are pushed more by curiosity in the fact that they don't want to accept that this is what we will have for X amount of years. So they are curious and they make observation and try to find a solution. But the masses, the bigger content of people are driven by need, as you say. So I think it's a level of humanity. Like there are those people who are just comfortable being human, and there's somebody who's comfortable. Okay, they're comfortable complaining they're hungry, but then there's somebody who's not comfortable complaining they're hungry. They will go and find food. And then there's somebody who will want to know what this kind of food.
I have to concede to your point, because my recent study of history has proven to me that while some people saw it an absolute need to figure out the stars and a reliable calendar, reliable timekeeping systems, there were many people in those days that were like, I'm already accustomed to doing things the way we do them now. Why do you want to change it? And George, I have to say, you're absolutely right. It's those that say, no, we could do better. But then there's a lot of apathetic people that are saying, so what? Gaith, you're itching. Please go.
Yes, because I think this is the last thing I would say today. First, if it's about needs, I don't think the first human on the earth has the needs that we have right now. I think it's about curiosity and it's about conflict. It's more than needs. They was living and we are living at the end. The needs, it's only two things. I think it's only to be safe and to be let's say, not hungry. And then your needs is finished. All other things, it's not needs. Okay, if you compare yourself to the older humans. Now, my question to George, because he highlighted this in a good way, since the math is a good way to derive patterns, and this is what mathematician was doing previously. Right now, we are on the last step, or we are entering the era that AI or data science will do that. See how much it's a great potential we have. That means what we as a human was doing by our own hands, by our own knowledge, and we spend time to do it. Right now we have machines is able to do that, and we will keep that decision for us. So right now we will see that was the scientist previously who was able to drive these patterns. Right now, machines are somehow able to do that. Now, our human part, who will be the scientist after that? This is the great question that we have to think about.
I think the fact that machines can be able to derive those patterns give us humans, makes us a bit of superhuman beings in terms of we can now look at the machines, we can now look at the results that are coming from the machines, and then we can be able, I think we call it tuning of the model. So the first part of the model making is to just get rudimentary patterns from it. Then we say, like, for example, if you look at something like Facebook. So Facebook, when it started, the point was just to communicate, people meeting in a space. Then they realized, like, okay, there's different kinds of people are meeting, and maybe they have different kind of needs. Then now they went to the next level of now trying to understand what is the need. And then, for example, how much time they're spending there and all those kind of things. And I think it's basically like, for me, on my end, I think we are living at one of the greatest eras. Like, if you look at AI now, it is what fire was to the guys maybe who are living thousands of years ago. The fire did not consume them. Okay, there are those who are consumed by the fire, but the people were able to control the fire, and from that they were able to do better things. I think the machines are still, are still dependent on human beings, as Hugo said. Machines will always be dependent on human beings because at the end of the day, we are the creators of the machines. The thing is, there are people who don't want to advance with the machines. So, like, for example, what Tom was saying, there are people who are comfortable, who are
George, if you can still hear us, your audio dropped.
Yeah, I think his network.
I'm going
bummer.
to say something until he comes back, and then that will be just like Gayat, my last thing to say for today. Yeah, I was just thinking of what he's just said about the AI making us superhuman. And when I think in that line, I quickly realized that the people who were before us did so many great things. And I mean, some you've been doing your, home day homage. And when you think of what they accomplished in their time, I'm not sure we actually know exactly what technology, all of what they knew in those times, because with every discovery of stuff, you just find that there have been so many things that people that have gone before knew and did that we don't know anything about. So that keeps me humbled. We're doing great, but there's still a lot that has happened before that we've not actually understood, all through, find out how they did all of that. So it's quite humbling to think that, yeah, for me anyway.
That's really good points, Ngozi, excuse me, I said it wrong. Sean, I'm eager to hear from you, buddy.
That's just a quick one, really. I think with AI, it's all down to whoever's teaching the AI, because if you've got a bad teacher, you can have bad intelligence. And it's the same, if you've got a good teacher, you'll get good AI. So it's, one sense it's a gift, but in another sense it's actually dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just the simple adage of garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
If you, and it's amazing, Sean, for us, it's not just what we're taught, it's what we catch. It's the modeling we pick up from being around each other too. When I think back to some of the jobs I was in, some of the cultures I was in, and how it affected me, how my childhood, I had to recognize how a childhood injury had affected me for decades, and the humility of realizing, oh my God, I acted out a lot because of that. Now I got to deal with that. And then it took me longer still a long time to figure out how to overcome that injury once I recognized it was causing me to act out. And yet, it's simple for a machine. Oh, sorry, we gave you bad data, but at least you didn't pick up our bad morals and our bad habits. And you're right. I think that's what I hear you saying. Yeah. We pick up both modeling by watching the way others we looked up to in the past were acting, but we also get taught wrong concepts. A real classic one is the idea that if you turn up the water real slowly while a frog's in the pot, it'll just let itself get boiled. That's not true. I don't know who came up with that. It's propagated a lot of, forgive me for saying, bullshit. So good point. Good point. Guy, did you have something to add at this point? Okay. Well, here's something interesting. Okay. Now,
maybe I can I just
sure, George, sure.
One last thing. I think let me just take you a bit back to what you're saying. It's either curiosity or need, and I think that's where we are at the moment, and that's where something like quantum mechanics comes in and says it can be both. Are you getting my idea? So like we are accustomed
absolutely to, it's a strong
yes
point
or
in
no.
fact.
So but at some point you always have that middle ground where it is both. So I think also just to answer that it is a loop of, it's kind of a game of both. And I think that's where now we are advancing to with quantum mechanics and now the next level of mathematics that kind of recognizes. And like, we can't also just say that the mathematicians who did everything. We have a responsibilities now that we are living to make even better observations. So like if Newton observed the apple then we can observe something more. So I think it's upon us now to build on top, rather than just to say those are the rules that are and should be. We have now a responsibility as now another generation to kind of build up on those mathematics and find better ways of maybe achieving the same equation, but maybe we call it refactoring in code. We refactor now that mathematics, and yes, they are great. They gave us a lot, but also if we treat that as the end, then as we are lost. We need to build up on top of that.
George, you're making such very good points. And I appreciate you speaking out this morning, because you improved my own thinking a lot today. But I want to add to what you just said with a very simple example. George Lucas, a very famous movie maker in my country, made Star Wars, of course, and other movies. But he said, good movies are never completed. They're only abandoned. And even the fun videos you see that I make, I realize I come up with the idea and then I start working on it. And I think, you know what, I've got limited time. I can't do my full vision for this video. I've got to do a simplified, time constrained version of it. And even then, all the video that I took to put into it, I don't use it all. But George, if we can remember, okay, yeah, I was working on my PhD and I got us to a certain point, and oh, now I can really appreciate why people have this section called future work or proposals for ongoing work. George, in our lifetime, we're going to feel like, yeah, I could only get to here. I could only do this much. I'm facing it in my own work. I'm doing the project of my life in my own work at my company. And Gaith and I are writing a book together. And by the way, I wanted to say in closing, if y'all will allow me to close, I think we need to be open to this point that, okay, curiosity and need, and we have to make careful decisions because of our limited time on Earth, what we choose to do. But with regard to these questions of how far can math take us, by the way, Gaith and I so much appreciate the respect that you guys show us. And I think we both feel like we don't deserve it. I know there's many times we're praising Giovanna and we have to tell her, no, Gio, you're great. You need to put yourself out there more, stuff like, and there's many of you that are like that. We see so much talent and potential in you. We want you to put yourselves out there more, but leveraging from the respect that you give to Gaith and I want to point out that there's someone that Gaith and I, and Dennis, by the way, regard as this underappreciated mathematical genius, and he's going to be with us next Saturday. So encourage everyone to come, but come with a mentality of, okay, we've discussed about the limits of math and machines and where humanity goes with all this stuff, but now let's come and talk to a math genius and where he can take us conceptually with math. I want to read what Jaya just put in here. Conventions are a sort of, I'm correcting what I think are your typos, so come off mute and correct me, Jaya, if I say it wrong. Conventions are sort of a guide or compass to help people make decisions. I agree. These conventions guide us, but also fuels growth. I agree again. Perhaps it can even lead to new conventions. I would hope so. It is constantly growing or evolving. We should be flexible to grow and yet have some guidance as we move forward. Yes, I love that. Thank you. And if it's okay, guys, I think the after party can't go unless I start it, but I think we've kind of had an after party if y'all are okay with that today. And I know Gaith and I both need to work on our book too.